Ink up, slow down, write your rhythm with script and scribe. Hi fellow stationery lovers, I'm Kat, and today I'm going to show you how this clear Pilot Kakuno became this. And the reason that it looks like this is because my original plan went spectacularly wrong. I wasn't looking to create a butterfly-themed hand-painted pen. I was trying to dye a clear Kakuno a transparent bottle green. Instead, I ended up with something that looked as though it had been abandoned in a swamp for several years. You can see here that the bright white inner cap absorbed the dye. Unfortunately, the rest of the pen barely changed color at all, especially the grip section. So I decided rather than accept defeat, I would try to rescue it using nail art techniques, UV gel polish, acrylic paint, and a level of confidence entirely unsupported by experience. Before we begin, a quick disclaimer for safety. This project involves products such as dyes, UV curing nail polishes, paints, adhesives, and UV lights. Always read and follow the manufacturer's safety instructions for any products you use. If you have any allergies, skin sensitivities, respiratory conditions, anything, or you've had similar bad reactions to these products, this may not be a suitable project for you. Some of these materials can produce strong odors or cause irritation, particularly in poorly ventilated spaces. So work in a ventilated space, consider appropriate protective equipment where recommended, and stop immediately if you experience any discomfort or adverse reaction. I'm sharing my own experimentation process rather than providing professional advice. So if you decide to try something similar, please do your own research and use products in accordance with the manufacturer's guidance. First, I remove the friction fit nib and disassemble the pen into its three main parts. So this here is a 120 grit nail buffer block to sand the surfaces in preparation for the UV coat. You can use any brand. These happen to be Canvalite buffer blocks. A pack of 10 costs £7.98, which works out to less than 80 pence per block. And I figured I'd be confident about this because if I did mess up, I have a friend, Madison, who's a nail tech or was a nail tech. And my next thought was, if I really mess this up, perhaps she can rescue the pen afterwards. The sanding was really easy to do, and I could definitely feel all the little bits of surface coming off. And after sanding, the cap, grip, and barrel all took on a really frosted glass appearance. I could feel the finest powdery residue, like dustiness, underneath my fingertips. Nothing particularly gritty, but really, really fine. And I decided to sweep that all up with the nail brush that they provided. Now for the UV base coat, top coats, and color gels, I picked up a beginner UV nail kit. Again, any brand would work. Do be careful. I'm thinking you have to go for safety. If you've got the ones that are sort of like irritants, and stay away from that. But I was genuinely surprised by the amount of packaging involved in the particular one that I got, and there also seemed to be no system whatsoever for how the colors, base coats, and top coats are organized. They may as well have arrived in one giant box together. That said, these beginner kits provide a good range of colors. We have one base coat and 3 top coats. So this is a regular top coat. This here is the silver glitter one. Here's the base coat I'll be using in a moment. And then finally, there's a matte top coat available too. The beginner's kit also came with this UV lamp, and it had instructions on how to use it. I did already have a UV light, a really small handheld one, which I had bought for a fabulous ultraviolet reactive fountain pen ink. As the base coat goes on, the pen regains its transparency and loses that frosted appearance. I used the handheld UV light to cure the base before deciding on what color to use next. And initially I thought about going with this green color, but as I looked at it, it just looked not quite right for what I had in mind. So I ended up going with a gray. At this point, I also decided to wear gloves because the smell of the base coat and this gray color were so strong that I started questioning how much skin contact I really wanted with these products. If you're considering a project like this, keep sensitivities in mind. I've only ever used traditional nail polish before. This was my first time experiencing UV cured products, and I was surprised by how strong the odor is, because I know people who use these things regularly, But I think if you have respiratory sensitivities, you have to consider this. And it also gave me an appreciation for nail technicians, many of whom wear masks, yes, while working around these fumes, but also around the fine nail dust all day, synthetic and organic. But yeah, I digress. So the grey layers on. My handheld UV lamp was taking forever to cure the polish, so I devised this drying rig using paintbrushes, a nail buffer block to act like a fulcrum on which to bounce those brushes, and various objects as counterweights to keep them levitating the pen parts away from the desktop so that they could dry nicely without getting smudged. It's not elegant, but it got the job done, and it's given me ideas about how to do it in the future. Alongside all the UV polish, I'll also be using acrylic markers and paints. And just before I decided to hand paint, I thought, let me put the silver glitter top coat to add some sparkle. And once the silver glitter top coat was on, I used a dotting tool to create petals using the acrylic paint. I went for a teal color, but I think I should have really hand painted it on because that dotting tool for me was a bit awkward. But I thought, let me just try all the tools that came in the kit, and this is what it looks like. Next, I'm abandoning my mediocre painting skills and relying on these holographic 3D butterfly nail stickers for visual impact. At this point, the butterflies are on, and I've added more acrylic paint in the form of white marker pen just to add some visual detail to the petals. And now it's time to seal everything under a final protective layer. Now, Madison specifically recommended that I use a no-wipe top coat. Apparently, not all top coats are created equal. Some are designed to dissolve easily, whereas a no-wipe top coat cures to a harder glass-like finish that resists yellowing and wear. I applied the top coat, propped the pen parts onto the paintbrushes again, and they're going in to be cured for a bit. And here's the finished result. It's not perfect, but I think the butterflies work surprisingly well. And some of these flowers look good. The ones that I did freehand rather than with the dotting tool, they look noticeably more organic. The others look a little bit forced. And I do think the white marker pen was a good move as well. One thing I learned concerns the grip section, so we're going to come to that in a second. But I'm just going to rotate this so you can see how well covered this is. And it does feel really solid. So that top coat is pretty spectacular. It doesn't feel like it's going to be wearing off anytime soon. Let's reassemble this pen and see what it looks like all together again. Now, the barrel fits onto the grip section perfectly. So you can see that the threads aren't compromised by the project. It's all lining up okay. And the other thing that I did is I was concerned about this particular section. So I put fewer layers onto this border. So it looks transparent. It's just 3 layers. That is just base. And then we've got the acrylic teal color and the top coat. That's all there is. And it actually looks really cool because you can see through it. And I wasn't expecting that. Now, I wish I'd stuck to 3 layers on the grip section. The raised butterfly stickers have added just enough thickness to compromise the snap seal. The cap still closes securely, but you no longer have that satisfying click, that signature click of the Kakuno. Time will tell whether this means that it's going to be more prone to having a dried out nib unit compared to the regular Kakuno, or actually if there's not going to be much of a difference, because on the flip side of things, I have sealed off the breather holes on the cap and at the back of the pen. So if you want to know more about breather holes, do watch the dedicated Kakuno video. The last section that we've got to put back in is this nib unit, and that just slides perfectly in. It is friction fit. Let me know what you think of this. Overall, for my part, I'm really pleased with the result. I do, however, like my transparent Kakunos more. I don't feel the need to decorate them. And while I don't think this looks better than the original clear version, it certainly looks better than the biohazard swamp aesthetic that was produced by my failed dye experiment. By the way, I have seen on Reddit recently that someone did the same dye on their Perkio and their Kakuno, and it failed on their Kakuno but worked on their Perkio. So just letting you know if you ever decide to go for dye, but I'm done with failed dye experiments, my end. Now, I'd particularly recommend the project that I've done here to anyone who hasn't got sensitivities to the products and also enjoys miniature micro painting, nail art, or detailed craftwork. That said, as someone with very little artistic experience, I still had a lot of fun, and I'm already eyeing up one of my Junhao 82s as the next unsuspecting volunteer for, I'm not quite sure if I'm going to use stickers, but we'll see. Watch this space. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you've ever customized a pen yourself or if it's something you've always wanted to try. You never know where a bit of curiosity and experimentation might lead. Take care. Bye.